following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland, in the northern part of what I consider to be the second greatest state that ever was. New York. New York is number one. But California is a close second, and it's a tie, really. I spent my my adult life in California after not growing up in New York. I was raised, but didn't really grow up. Anyway, as you, my audii, know, I speak to some of the most interesting people on the face of the planet on a regular basis. And no exception today. Welcome back to these airwaves, Mr. Jerry Feitelberg. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, Ralph. I do
Good.
take exception with your number one state being New York. I being from a little further north in the Northeast from the great state of Massachusetts and the great city of Boston in particular, will take exception. I think
I'm not an arguer. I'm too frustrated by life to argue with my friends over which state was better. We both had tremendous upbringings in terms of states to grow up in, cities. There's no argument. It's a tie there. So let's just say, for point of discussion, it's a three-way tie: New York, Boston, and California. How about that?
Yeah, you got that right. And we both happen to live in the great town of Alameda, about 7 miles east of downtown San Francisco, easily accessed by taking the ferry rather than driving the freeway. Great weather, great climate, can't beat it, and accessible to everything in the San Francisco area. Yeah, it really is.
The only thing about Alameda, and it is the same in every city, every state, every part of every state, is that there are incredibly stupid people around, and I'm referring to the way people are reacting to getting back in the country, getting back into full swing. Suddenly, the scientists are being ignored, and the people are responding with their pocketbooks, not their brains. If it were me, if it were me out there and I were earning a living, I would do everything I can to make sure that my health is protected for the long term. Short-term living is just, money is money, but health is everything.
Yeah, you tap into something, because there are a lot of people who want to go back to life as it was. They want to go to restaurants and sit in restaurants, sit in bars, and that's the easiest way to spread the infection. If you go into a bar, it's a closed room where people are all jammed together. They don't have social distancing, and with arguments and people yelling, and there's moisture coming out of people's mouths, or it gets on the surfaces and you shake hands or whatever, you embrace them. It's a great way to spread the disease. So it's painful in the short term. It's painful to go maybe 6 months without going back to business as normal. Trying to get back into it will only hopefully it won't start the infection rate going up again, but I don't think that will be the case. The more we get back to normal activities, the more likely it is that the virus will spread.
Absolutely. And at that point, a second shutdown will be even more painful. Notwithstanding the lives of people that will have been lost, the suffering, the pain, all of that, but there's a new factor of stupidity. People want to open the schools in the midst of this virus spreading to kids in a way. Now, you're a pharmacist by profession, not only a pharmacist, the 1995 Pharmacist of the Year in the state of California. So you're highly qualified to talk about this, much more so than I. What's this new virus going around that's affecting children, and how is it that people can talk about opening the schools when the scientists don't even know what the hell this is?
Well, so far the rate of infection among children has been fairly low for some reason. However, that doesn't mean that we should herd the kids back into the classroom, kids that are in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, or even all the way up to high school and college, because all it takes is one person to become infected. And while the individual may not experience too much, it might be a mild case for the person, but they become a carrier. So they come home and they couldn't.
Jerry, let me interrupt you and be specific with my question for a second. We're talking about this new virus as an offshoot of coronavirus, and it is the Kawasaki virus, specifically.
I've heard of the Kawasaki, and the kids are having a difficult time with the Kawasaki, and I believe it could be fatal for them. It could be. Who knows? It's weird.
My point is, then, if we don't know, if you're going, who knows, and you're a registered pharmacist, and it's so new and it is so uncertain that why not err on the side of caution and not open the schools yet until they get this under control?
You're being logical. I can't disagree with that. It's absolutely true. We should err on the side of caution, and it's not necessary to open up the classes for we don't have to open up until December or January, whatever it is. We have to bite the bullet and get through this thing, and not put children at risk, and not put adults at risk, and not put anybody at risk at present time. So, yeah, you're right. I can't find anything wrong with your logic.
Okay. Another question that comes to mind, do you think that Biden is capable of beating Trump in an election, or should the Democrats be seriously looking at someone with leadership qualities, vis-a-vis Cuomo, as an example, to just come in? He's the presumptive nominee, not the nominee, and it isn't too late. He has more baggage than we need to take a chance of not beating Trump. God Almighty, I know I'm not saying that properly, but we can't risk this election. This is the most important election of my lifetime, sure your lifetime as well. And do you think Biden is qualified to win? Electable is all. He's better than Trump. Of course he's better than Trump. Do you think he's electable?
Yes, he is electable, and I'll tell you why. I had the opportunity to hear Joe Biden speak a couple of years ago at the Flint Center at De Anza College down in Cupertino. He spoke for about an hour extemporaneously. He has the facts at hand. He's well trained. He's a lawyer by profession. He knows what to do. He's been around. Is he perfect? No. Has he made mistakes? Sure. Everybody has made mistakes. But overall, he's more than competent to take over and run the government. I think he
Oh, no question about that. His competency isn't the issue. What is the issue is that I'm thinking of him standing on stage next to Trump in a debate. And I know Trump is full of hot air, everything he says, this, that, and that. And the other thing is a lie. That's not the point. The point is, how is he going to look? How is he going to respond to Trump's craziness on stage? And another thing, we haven't heard from him at all for the last 6 weeks. What kind of a candidate who's supposed to be the presumptive nominee isn't out there doing Cuomo's job? Cuomo talks to the country every morning, 7 days a week, about what's going on. We haven't heard but crickets from Biden for weeks now.
You make a good point, but there's a reason for that. They may be showing political ads in some of the swing states as we talk now. I don't think they have to spend money in California putting Biden on TV with commercials, because we know that California is going to vote for Biden. But as long as Trump is going out on the stage and hanging himself, why create a distraction? Just stand off to the side, let Trump do his stuff. They know when the debates come that Trump is going to pull every dirty trick out of the bag right in front of Biden. So it's up to Biden and his staff to prepare him to be ready for anything that Trump might throw at him. And they have something called Oppo Research, where they go out and they dig up all this dirt on their opponents, and you can believe that the Ukrainian stuff with his son Hunter is going to come up, and that Hunter was making fortunes because of his father Joe was vice president, and the same thing.
I used to think that was the number one reason why Biden is unelectable. It's not anymore.
No,
the Me Too generation women will not vote for this guy. He's not to be trusted.
I saw his response on Morning Joe, and when asked about it, he did not hesitate. He just looked straight ahead into the camera and said it never happened. He didn't.
There have been 7 allegations previous to that, and there's that, and there's the Anita Hill thing, and there is the going across the aisle to make deals with folks who are the worst human beings that ever lived.
If he had his indiscretions,
there's just too much.
If Biden had his indiscretions, it's pale in comparison to what Trump did. Please. I
understand that. Trump is the worst human being in the world, and the lesser of two evil attitude got us in trouble with Hillary. Hillary was a much, much better person, a much more qualified candidate. The lesser of two evils. She, too, was flawed beyond recognition. She's horrible, but better than Trump. I'm tired of that. Lesser of two evils has been the theme of every election I can think of. Well, he's no Trump. Well, he's no Nixon. Well, he's no this, no that, no. But what is he? And you say he's a good person or a good candidate. I say no. But we can debate. We can talk about it. Give me some more strong arguments as to why he's electable. Please, I'm open. I'm a Democrat. I want the best Democratic candidate.
Well, Biden, as you know, was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He comes from coal country. Number one, so he moved to Delaware. He's experienced great tragedy in his life, He lost his wife and daughter in a car wreck, and then his son Bo died from brain cancer a few years ago. He's very empathetic to people. He understands.
Right.
He understands the working man, the blue collar guy. He knows about jobs, how important jobs are to the working class. He is a self-made man. He got elected to the Senate when he was 29 years old. He couldn't serve in office till he was 30. And just before he was sworn in, his wife and daughter were killed in a car wreck. And he had to live through that. And he had to raise his children. And he's a self-made. As you know, when he served in the Congress and the Senate, he commuted every day from his home in Delaware. Every day went home to his kids. He's a very solid. He knows his stuff. And as we said, he has some flaws, but overall he's a much finer person. And he has the temperament and the coolness to be decisive when needed. He is consistent. I think those are the characters, the qualities that you'd want in a president, so that he will make the right decision. He'll listen to advisors. He won't go on hunches or to do what his gut tells him to do, like Trump does. So I think he's much better than Trump.
At the best, we've got a centrist Democrat. Now,
yeah, well,
my philosophy in life: if you're not a progressive, you're a regressive, and it's come to the point. Pardon?
Not quite.
Well,
I consider myself slightly to the left of the center. I'm not way out on the left. I'm just slightly to the left of center, and that's
but slightly to the left of center. So yeah. I don't know how a left-thinking person like myself, who is living in a world in a country consumed by socialism at this point. The bailout, socialism, right?
To a degree, yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, this country needs socialism. It needs socialistic programs, and Biden is in cahoots. First of all, we need a way of taking care of folks' insurance, their health care. Biden is in cahoots with the drug companies. So is he liable to endorse marijuana, which can replace many of the drugs going, not the least of which are the sedatives? Okay,
yeah,
and he doesn't support. He does. Who knows? He's come out. He's against marijuana. He's against because of the drug companies. He is also, and this is my final pitch, and we'll get on to talking about something pleasurable. The main thing that people need is affordable health care. And the second thing that Johnny Lunchbucket needs is to know before he leaves the house that he's going to a job that will reward him with not a great deal of wealth, but just enough to raise a family, pay the rent, maybe a mortgage, and live comfortably. He's working 40 hours. Don't you expect a working class person to do that? Well, Biden is against raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which is unlivable in itself. I mean, if you think about it.
Well, you got to look at it this way. If the Democrats, before I want to preface that, you're talking about socialism. What I'd like to see is more enlightened capitalism, because when I was in business, I was an entrepreneur. I was a capitalist. I believe in the capitalistic system. The thing is, where we fall down as a country is that we don't have health care for everybody. Now, those people who are working, they get their health insurance through their employer. However,
and even with the health insurance that they get, if they come down with cancer and they're fully insured, the co-payments will bankrupt them. So
right, exactly.
even the working get health insurance, but that doesn't even help the working, let alone the non-working.
Right. So the one of the questions that people have about employer health insurance, why should it be the responsibility of the employer to provide health insurance? Just stop and think. If that burden were taken off the employer, the health insurance was provided by a Medicare for All or some sort of program like that, or enhanced Obamacare, so everybody was covered. The employers would lower the prices of goods for everything. You'd be paying less money for goods.
There is the problem with capitalism is greed. Now, do you think these employers are providing health insurance because they want to? They like the employees? No. They're providing health insurance to keep the good employees, so they don't have to retrain new employees. If they didn't have health insurance, they'd have people that they're training would be looking at them with one eye out the window. Where can I get a job with health insurance? That's why.
And also, it's tax deductible. The money spent on premiums comes off their taxes. But
absolutely.
Yeah, so those are some of the reasons the employers might want it, but I think the way they're putting out these programs now, that the employees, they don't get Cadillacs anymore or Mercedes-Benz type of programs. Most of these health insurance programs are bare bones, because they figure that people are healthy enough, and when they get to be age 65, then everyone goes on Medicare. So I don't think the coverage is as good as it used to be when you had when you had freedom of choice and you could pick your providers and go anywhere you want, but you can't do that anymore. You usually have to go to these networks of doctors or sign up with Kaiser and stand in line for health care. And as you said, the copays can put them into poverty.
Absolutely. So therefore, his ideology sucks. Biden. Let's put it that way. If he doesn't want change in that, if he's taking money from drug companies and we're going to elect him, the lesser of two evils. I'd vote for him tomorrow. No, actually, I wouldn't. I live in California, and he'll win without my vote. Trust me. And by the way, let me clarify something to all my friends out there who think if I don't vote for Biden in the election, it's a vote for Trump. No, it's no more a vote for Trump than if I didn't vote for Trump, it's a vote for Biden. So I'm telling people now, I'm not voting for Trump. Well, that's a vote for Biden. Good deal. You see, in other words, that's a false argument. If you don't vote for one candidate, you're endorsing the other candidate. That could work on both sides, making it a bullshit argument, as far as I'm concerned. So if anybody questions who I vote for or don't vote for, that's my argument, and it makes a lot of sense. Now, people say, by bad-mouthing Biden, you're endorsing Trump for that reason. No, that's not true. I won't bad-mouth Biden when he becomes the candidate, not the presumptive candidate. I think there's always room for miracles. Now, come the convention time and come no leadership from Biden between now and then, nothing comes out of his mouth that really isn't anything but Trump is bad, nothing about him. I think there's a possibility that the delegates could choose to go to Cuomo.
We don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't.
Do you think there's a possibility of that? Is that worth my dreaming about?
You can dream about it all you want. I just don't think it's going to happen. The reality is that he's probably going to get the nomination on the first ballot, unless he does something. Unless this more comes out, the Me Too movement comes out before the convention, and he has to give it up. But I don't see that happening. But
even with Hunter, that's Hunter combined. In other words, it becomes damage heaped upon damage.
And they're going to. And the Republicans are going to go. They're going to feature that in all the ads. But they got.
So why give them the fodder? Is my point. Nothing. Say I think he's an all right guy, and I do. He's no worse than the bulk of them. I don't think there's much of a difference between the two parties, Bernie notwithstanding, and he's an independent.
I disagree. There's a lot of.
Or Trump notwithstanding. If Trump were out of it, would you see much of a difference? I'd vote for Romney if he ran as a Republican rather than Biden.
Well,
I think he's a better man.
Romney has some guts in him because he stood up to Trump by voting to convict him. But anyway, you have to remember, you were talking about Biden taking money from the drug companies. The big companies hedge their bet. They give money to both candidates. So the candidates are both beholden to them.
It doesn't matter, but two sides are the same. They're both beholden to drug companies and alcohol companies and cotton companies and all the things that could stand all the things the country could stand legalization over, and the timber companies. You could.
And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something right now. You can have AT&T or GE or any of these companies pour money into a candidate, but remember, the individual company has 0 votes. It's people that vote. And so you can have GE making big donations to the Republicans and big donations to the Democrats, but they have no votes. It's their people there.
Well, actually, it is affected. The people are affected because most people aren't anywhere near in tune with what's going on, and they vote based on ads. And these people give money that lobbyists give money that the candidates use in ads, so that the system is broken. Is what I'm saying. Okay. We have the same people becoming rich on both, and I think they're all in cahoots. I think they'll play good guy, bad guy, and then the next election it'll be the Democrats, and the next election it'll be the Republicans. And eventually they become indistinguishable, and they have. So enough about politics.
Okay, I just want to make one last point.
Please.
And in all the years that I was active, and I would go up, I would talk to the people in the state assembly, the assemblymen and the state senators, and I was fortunate enough to go to Washington a few times and talk to congressmen, the late Pete Stark. We would visit with him, and the different congressmen from California, and I talked to other congressmen from around the country.
Remind the people what you were there for. You were there for because the drug companies were ganoffs. Am I correct?
We were there trying to explain what the drug companies were doing to the public as a whole.
Okay. Were they doing good things to the public as a whole?
Well, they
have they ever done?
They do good things in their research, and they develop these antiviral drugs that stop the HIV infection and the AIDS problem. They prolong lives. They do good work, but they make a lot of money at it, and they also do bad things too. And so, you have
price the cost of insulin sky high. So there are people.
Totally
that have
outrageous.
to share. They have to miss insulin hits or treatments, or share with their family because they can't afford a full dosage. Is that doing good if you develop the medicine and take it and provide it just for the rich people like them? Is that doing good?
That's not doing good. And you remember the mission of the companies is to make money. They are for-profit companies, so they are beholden to make money. And there was a trend in the 70s and 80s where if corporations weren't making money, they had these takeover specialists that came over, and they had these buyouts, hostile takeovers of companies. So they had to start showing profits every quarter. But this will be the last thing, and we can talk some other things. The developers of insulin, Banting and Best, way back in the 1920s, when they figured out how to make insulin, you know how much they sold their discovery for? Do you have a clue? They gave it away.
No.
They gave it away for free. They never got royalties on it.
Just to get out from under, in other words.
No, just because of the benefit it did. It could help so many people who couldn't afford it. They sold it to, or they gave it to the companies like Eli Lilly or Squibb, and they produced insulin, and there were no royalties involved.
Oh, okay. How long ago was this?
That was in the 20s, almost 100 years ago.
Okay. So it could be, it could yet again be what it should have been. And by them giving it away, that was wonderful. So this hope isn't lost. Hope isn't lost. It can always get better. Let's change the subject to something a little bit more up your alley, as it were. Well, not that there's anything that's not up your alley, but you are a man who has taken a bunch of cruises, and I think that may have come to an end. And I'd like you to wax poetic a little of what cruising was, because it's got a lot of bad rep with all the sicknesses and this, that, and the other thing. But talk of your enjoyment on your cruises a little bit, where you went and what. Regale my audience, because you've lived a wonderful retirement.
Well, thank you, Ralph. Yeah, I'm living.
Regale, I guess. Regale would be the best way to pronounce that. But please, if you would, your stories are fascinating to me.
Sure. As you know, in retirement, I got to do sports broadcasting and writing, something I loved as a kid, but never thought I would ever be doing it. And now I, for 15 years since I've been in retirement, I've been able to do this. And cruising for me at this stage of the game of life is a wonderful vacation. The reason is that when you go on a cruise, whether it's usually I like to go for at least 14 days, 2 weeks. The longest cruise that I was ever on was a 30-day cruise, and was, I think, 11,000 miles on the ship. And we went to some countries. We started in Cape Town, South Africa, and we made several stops in Africa. We stopped in Mozambique. We went to Tanzania. We went to Kenya. We stopped in the Seychelles and off to the Maldives Islands and Sri Lanka, Thailand, Malaysia. Ended up in Singapore. And
wow.
And we had, before the cruise, we spent a few days in Cape Town and a few days after the cruise in Singapore. The last cruise we went on was the cruise of the Baltic. We started in Copenhagen, and we went to Sweden, we went to Finland, we went to Russia, we went to Estonia, Poland, Germany, and then ended up in Amsterdam. So we started in Denmark and ended up in Amsterdam. saw all these wonderful countries, a lot of great architecture. We saw some medieval village towns, the remnants of what's left from the Middle Ages. It was really, really very interesting to see that. And I've been to South America, and of course, one of the cruises we started in Athens, and we made a stop in Egypt and went to a Bedouin village in the Egyptian desert. And from there, we went to Oman and went to the city of Muscat, the capital of Oman. It's a beautiful city, second cleanest city in the world. And from there, we went to Dubai and we went to Mumbai in India. Just phenomenal, absolutely. And the thing is, on the ship, when you have cruising days, it's very relaxing. They have lectures on the ship. They have all kinds of activities on the ship. They have you can play trivia games. They have for bridge players. They have bridge contests in the morning. Dancing. They have casinos on the ship. They have some shopping, but not a lot. They have libraries where you can get books to read. And of course, they have great food, great service, and great food at the restaurants. And so
wow.
for older people, it's great because when you get there, all you have to do is you just unpack once, and then you pack, and then you repack when you leave. But in the meantime, you get to see places that you ordinarily wouldn't see. And of course, all of them are on the coast for the most part. But on the Baltic cruise, when we got there, we were in St. Petersburg, Russia, for 3 days. They had a itinerary where people got on a train and they took the train and went to Moscow, spent the day in Moscow, and came right back. So they have all these different itineraries that you can do, and they have a whole selection of things on several places. If you went there, you would have you could use, if there were a beach, you could go swimming for the day, or they had some sea activities. When we were in the Maldives, we went on a submarine ride, an actual submarine. We don't know how far we went down, but we went down, and they had portholes, and we could see the fish, and that was kind of interesting. And the cruise that we were supposed to go on a cruise on leaving April 6th. We were going to fly to Abu Dhabi, and then we were going to board the ship, and we were going to stop. We were going actually back to Oman. Oman controls a little tip of just at the entrance to the Persian Gulf, and they collect a ton of port fees, and they make a lot of money doing that. And so they had a couple of spots there. We were going to go to Aqaba, and at Aqaba we were going to go to Petra and take the tour of Petra, which was kind of interesting, kind of rocky. I'm not sure I was going to be able to do it because it's tough sledding, and I have to use a walking stick when I'm on tour. The third world countries in Europe and Asia, they don't have a lot of handrails, so going up and down stairs is problematic for me. So I always take a walking stick with me. So that's good. But from there, we were going to go. We were going to go back to Israel. We were supposed to stop in Haifa for a couple of days. We're going to stop in Turkey, Greece, Sicily, in Sorrento, and Rome.
Have you been to any of these places before, or?
On this trip.
And if so, what do you miss the most about not going to these places?
Well, I was disappointed that the cruise was canceled, but you don't want to be on a ship right now. The ship is the perfect petri dish for these diseases to grow and to really infect people. One of the big problems that they have on ships is the norovirus. It spreads like wildfire throughout the ship, and especially at the buffets. Now, a lot of cruise lines, in the old days, they used to have the serving pieces, and you'd walk down, and you've been in buffet lines, that you have a spoon right in front of the chafing dish where you're going to get your food, and you pick up the food or the tongs, and you put the food on your plate. And then Then the next person.
They ask you not to lick those. They ask you not to lick those tongs.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But on the more enlightened ships, they have people serving. They have you go down the line, but you don't do it. Someone serves it to you. So they put it on your plate, and then they have a protective barrier, so you don't breathe on the food and that type of thing. But it's very, very pleasant. It's a very pleasant experience. Social distancing is difficult because we were on the last cruise we were on. We had 1,200 people on the ship, and virtually at lunchtime, every seat in the dining room was taken. So,
wow, how are you going to stay 6 feet from someone?
Yeah, how are you going to stay 6 feet away, and how are you going to disinfect the tables and the chairs and all the silverware? It's impossible. And so that's why you can see how easily it's spread through a cruise ship. The cabins are small. If you're on a cruise ship and you're in an inside cabin, you don't have very much space. You got about maybe 150 square feet, if that. Most of the cabins, the average cabin is about 230 square feet. Some are a little bit bigger. Yeah.
I want to switch the line of questioning a little bit. I want to ask you what your feelings are when you come back from your cruise. You're in America now. You're back where you are. Well, what do you feel? Do you feel nationalistic feelings, which would be natural, if you will, or what do you miss most about being home when you're not home?
Well, that's an interesting question. Usually, when we were on the Baltic cruise and we went into towns like we went to the city of Gdansk, and in my mind, the city of Gdansk was this big industrial port that the Germans and the Poles had fought over for years. When the Germans had it was Danzig, when the Poles had it was Gdansk. And we went in there, and they took us to the old town, and we saw this beautiful old town. I had no conception of what it was. It just blew me away. It was extensive. And, of course, the Poles, when communism fell, and then they had capitalism come in, and there was money to be made, people invested money and rebuilt it, and then did a beautiful job. So now tourism had become a part of Gdansk's what they needed for the income for the town. And it was really nice to see these towns in Europe. Berlin had been totally rebuilt, and a lot of them are like American cities. A lot of them, they're just new cities. They look nice, and I said to myself, in some instances, in some of the cities where the areas have been run down, we should invest in these areas, rebuild them if we can, and copies what some of the Europeans are doing. Well, the two cities that I liked were Copenhagen and Amsterdam. In Copenhagen, Denmark, as you know, they have cradle to grave. Cradle to grave. It's a capitalist society, but they're socialistic. Everybody has health care, everybody has child care. Everybody has, if you're a senior citizen and you're ill and you go into the nursing home, it's taken care of. You don't have to worry.
I'm sure one's education is taken care of.
Education is taken care of. So, but they know they're going to pay heavy taxes, but they're willing to do it because it benefits everybody. Everyone's affected by it, and so they feel comfortable in their lives. And we went in, and I bought a pair of shoes in Copenhagen. It was expensive, and I knew it was expensive, but the money is, I think they have a value-added tax that they put in there, so they have that, and the people pay a fairly high percentage of their income in taxes, but the quality of life is terrific. And you come back and you say, why don't we have that in the United States? Why don't we're a capitalist, and we talked about that. Why don't we have that?
That really reflects on you. In other words, you didn't come back and say, although it's great, I miss baseball, this, that, and the other thing. You came back with that kind of thought.
Yeah.
That's nice, Jerry. You're a good person. And that's why your kids deserve better than Biden, for instance. And they deserve better than a two-party system that feeds on capitalistic greed. Now, I just want to add one thing, go back a little bit to what we were talking about drug companies and how insulin was, they gave insulin away in the 20s and what have you. Jonas Salk did not make bucks from his invention.
Right.
And so we can get back to that. And that's a wonderful dream. Let's put it that way.
It is. Look how the world is better with the Salk vaccine.
Of course.
No, but polio has been eradicated. It's been eradicated.
But now, how much these new drugs, if they ever get a vaccine, won't there be a price tag on that? Are they talking?
What, $1,000 a dose? Who knows what they're going to charge?
All right, so that the people with money, God bless them, nothing wrong with having money, but those are the people that will be able to afford it, and the people without money won't be able to afford it. Am I correct? So with a pandemic, you got to stop the spread, which means the pandemic doesn't go by race, creed, religion, age, money, no money. It's just random. So
if you look at the statistics, the number of people dying from the coronavirus, the Black and Latino populations are maybe 40 or 50% of the people that are dying.
Right, and they're 20% of the people that are here or whatever. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a disparagement that's disgraceful.
Yeah, and people in nursing homes are dying. Way too many people in nursing homes are dying, and that's sad too. Yeah, so the people who are in the affluent neighborhoods, they're going to be okay. They're going to be able to get the tests. They're going to be able to afford the tests. They're going to be able to do it. And it's really a sad situation. That's why, we used to say, and we have said, the virus doesn't know boundaries. It doesn't know state lines. It doesn't know if you're a Democrat, doesn't know if you're a Republican, doesn't know if you're a socialist, a communist, whatever. It doesn't know all these things. All it knows is that it invades the body and it replicates in the body, and we just don't. There are no antibodies for it. There's no drug. There's no cure. There's no vaccine. So if you become infected, and especially if you're over the age of 60, the odds increase, and the older you get, the odds increase that you're not going to survive. People over the age of 80, it's like a 50-50 deal right now. 50% are going to survive. One of my classmates from high school at the Boston Latin School, he was a dentist. I received word that he's been in the hospital since April 1st with COVID-19. And wow. I sent him an email, and he responded, "Thanks for asking." And I sent him one back, and I said, "How are you doing? How are you feeling? How long are you going to be in the hospital? Are you at home now?" He's going to be in the hospital for another 3 to 4 weeks, and he's in rehab. He's 81. He's 81 or 82 years old, and I hope he's going to be the same guy when he gets out. Who knows? I don't know how badly his lungs are compromised, but obviously he was in deep trouble.
Right. So sorry to hear about that, Jerry.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, let's end on a good note. Baseball may be back before we know it. What do you think of them playing in front of no fans?
That's an interesting question. the Major League Baseball would like to get it going by July 1st. Well, that would mean a short, maybe 2 or 3 weeks preparation to get ready to play. So the players would have to be down in wherever they train, Phoenix or Florida or wherever, to get ready for the season to start on July 1st. And again, they haven't come to an agreement with that. Some of the players do not want to work for reduced pay. They've already had their salaries reduced once. The owners want to reduce it again. The agents are not in favor of the players signing. A lot of the players are not in favor of going back to work because there are questions about where they're going to live. Will they be able to bring their families with them? Also, because they're going to play in Phoenix or Texas or Florida or whatever, they have to figure out there's going to be 26 players plus. They don't have any minor leagues this year, so they're going to have 6 or 8 players sitting on the bench.
Taxi, like an old-fashioned football taxi squad.
Taxi squad, right, be available in case of injuries. And you're in a clubhouse. Are they going to? The clubhouses aren't that huge. The lockers that they have now are right next to each other, and that takes up a lot of space for 26 guys. And they usually have tables where the players can have food, so they're going to be on top of each other. So you got 26 players plus another 6 is 32. You got 6 or 8 coaches. That's 38, and you got all the staff that goes along with it. The clubhouse manager, the visiting club manager. You have the people cleaning up. So there's maybe 50 or 60 people in a clubhouse. All it takes is one person to become infected, and then they'll have to stop play. So,
right?
Can they do it? I wouldn't want to play in front of an empty stadium, but I'm not in my 20s, and I'm not a baseball player. So
and you don't have $5 million to lose if the season is canceled.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And the owners the same way.
Yeah, the rookies and the players on the team control. They make nice salaries. They make coming in. You get over $500,000 a year to play. But if you're a second or third year player, you might be getting $575,000. If you're doing well, you're getting $1 million. Well, it's a lot of money. But if you bought a house and you have big payments and you have cars and you have kids, all that costs money, and you have to have it. So some of them are okay. They can weather the storm. Some can't. But overall, the most important thing is staying healthy and not getting the virus. And
for that reason, I think the season starting in July is a long shot. I think that putting it all together is a long shot, and I'm cynical. The longer they put off canceling the season, the longer the clubs get to hold on to that season ticket dollar that they have. They have the people's money sitting in their bank accounts at this point.
Well, let me tell you about our cruise. We paid for the cruise in December. We were fully paid for the cruise in December that was supposed to start in April. And we had strange things going on with the cruise line. First of all, when I saw that the cruise the ship was coming from Singapore and they had an outbreak in Singapore, I was very concerned about the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to the travel agent, if we cancel, can we get our money back? And they said no. But we had trip insurance. We had a policy. But when you read the fine print in the trip insurance, you find out they don't pay off this as an epidemic. So here we are. We got all this money invested, and I said, okay, we'll wait a while. So it got a little hairy, And about a week later, I called them and said, "Okay, here's what we'll do. We'd like to cancel this cruise, but hold on to the money, and we'll take another cruise. Give us a credit." You know what they said? No.
Oh.
So another week goes by, and now this is now around March 5th or 6th. Yeah, and I called them, travel agent, and we said, okay, see if we can see what's going on with the cruise company. So he called me back, and he said, well, now the cruise company says if they'll accept your offer, if you want to cancel the cruise, we'll give you a credit. You can go on another cruise. And I said, okay,
that's good. That's fine,
yeah.
right?
Then the next week, the travel agent called me and said, not only are they allowing you to cancel 30 days in advance, you can cancel 48 hours in advance, and they will give you, if you want to turn in your cruise and get a credit, they'll give you 125% credit rather than 100%. You get 100, so that's a little sweetener. And then a few days later, he called me and said, "Okay, they'll give you that deal, or you can get your money back." So from March 6th to March 25th, this all
they've gone to absolutely no refund whatsoever.
Yeah,
now you get your money back.
Yeah, because they canceled the cruise. So it's been, and they said, but you won't. It will take 60 to 90 days to get your money back. And they've held it since we paid the whole thing in full in December. So they had the money December, January, February, March, April.
Long way to go, but I understand your analogy to Major League Baseball. Same thing. And again, big business. That it's not anything that's wrong with capitalism per se. It's the greed in capitalism.
Yeah, let me tell you one thing, and I learned this from Joe Alioto, the late Joe Alioto, the former mayor of San Francisco, one of the premier antitrust attorneys in the country. Joe used to say, if you have more competitors, you have more competition, and if you have more competition, you have lower prices. And if you look at the cruise industry, 3 companies have the bulk of the cruise industry business: Royal Caribbean, Carnival, and Norwegian. They control about 90% of the cruise industry.
And then there's the guy with a rowboat and a hooker, and
right.
He does well. Never mind. He doesn't go far, but per cat he makes good money.
These companies have gotten so big that they control so much of the market. They have huge market shares. Whereas if you had a lot of people competing, you'd have more competition, more service, better prices. And big business use this analogy. They used to say we would have economies of scale. Look at all these little businesses. They all have accountants. They all have this thing. They all have lawyers. We'll consolidate into this one big company, and we'll have much lower overhead for all this stuff, and that will lower your prices.
And then Sam Walmart had a big party.
Yeah, exactly. You got
because it's turned into that. Really,
that's exactly how it turned into. It turned into Walmart's. It's turned into these monolithic companies. And one of the things that an independent businessman can do is he or she can move much faster in the marketplace than a monolithic company. It was much easier for me to compete against CVS because decisions had to come from somewhere else. If I had to make a decision, I did it that day, and it was taken care of.
Right.
I didn't have to get through corporate and all this stuff. So things were taken care of. And when you called up, you talked to a human being. I didn't have these automatic answering machines. If you want to talk to so-and-so, press 1, press 2, press 3. We got, hello, how are you? What's your problem? And that's how we talk to people.
And for the customer can come into your pharmacist and talk to real human beings and not be looked at as a number, and makes all the difference.
Exactly. They had a name. They had a first name. My customers were on a first name basis, and but that's the old system. That was the way it was done in the old days. Now you go into a pharmacy, you stand in line, you have your prescription filled. You might see the same pharmacist, you might not. Who knows? And in order for these pharmacies to survive, because they have to deal with the insurance industry, which has literally put their fingers around the necks of the pharmacy business, and they've strangled it. The pharmacists do not make a lot of money filling prescriptions. And in order to survive, they have to fill lots of them. And that's why people when they go to the big chains, the pharmacists are always busy. If they can get a chance to talk to them, they're fine. But it's an anonymous event. They may see you, they may know you, they may recognize the name, they may not. But it's just different than it was the way when we were kids growing up. In New York, there was a couple pharmacies close by. You knew the guys, they knew your family.
Hey, I delivered drugs for Bright Pharmacy as a kid, and what you say is exactly true. Bright Pharmacy was on one side of the street, and I think it was Rexall or something like that was on the other side. And you know your pharmacist and be a family friend. And it was it's absolutely different now.
Yeah,
but,
I have to laugh because I didn't know when I first started seeing Dr. Fauci on TV. I didn't know his background, and he said, "Well, didn't you know that Dr. Fauci's father in Brooklyn was a pharmacist?" I said, "No, I didn't know that." Yeah, and Fauci's mother and father used to run the cash register, work in the store. His mother and sister, and Dr. Fauci used to deliver prescriptions for his father.
Whoa! And that little 5'6" guy was a point guard on his high school basketball team, and reputedly a good one.
Yeah.
So, give me a guy with an athletic background every time, because there's something about competition that makes a man or a woman better in whatever endeavor they choose if they get to compete.
And that's why we love sports, because people are competing. You made me think of, I have a friend up in Mendocino. He grew up in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn. And he played, his next door neighbor, he played on the basketball team with his next door neighbor. The guy was a lefty. They used to play stickball out in the street. The guy was a lefty, and you know what a Spalding is. Most of
of course.
You know, it's this little red sponge ball.
Except they pronounce it Spalding.
Spalding.
No, but in New York they pronounce it Spalding, and it's like a pinky. If you've ever seen little round baseball size ball, you know.
Yeah, we used to throw the ball up against the stairs and it would go across the street, and we'd play a game like that. But these guys,
ball and stick ball, it was great growing up.
And so this lefty, if he hit you with a pitch, and he was a little bit wild when he was a kid, it would hurt for a week. Well, they played on the basketball team, and the neighbor got a scholarship to the University of Cincinnati to play basketball, and they went there for a year or two. And then he came back, and he was from Brooklyn, and he became the first kid from Brooklyn to pitch for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and he went on to have a Hall of Fame career. His next-door neighbor was Sandy Koufax.
Right.
Can you believe that? And Koufax was born in 1935, so he's going to be 85 this year. So hard to believe he's been retired since he's for 55 years, but it's been a long time.
Wow. Great story. Hey, thank you, Jerry Feitelberg. You always make my day. And I can't wait for this pandemic stuff, this lockdown at home to end. I was seriously considering being a permanent agoraphoriac. So I never leave the house, but I have to leave the house to have lunch with you at Nations on Webster in Alameda, California.
Yeah, we'll
do
that
that
real
soon, Jerry.
We'll order it online, pick it up, and then drive over to your nice garden and have a lunch out in the backyard. How's that? When it loosens up a little bit. Yeah.
Stay well, my friend. Thank you for gracing these airwaves. Love talking to you.
Yeah, we'll do it again. Let me know when
Be
you
well.
do it.
Say hi to Isla for me.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right.
Take care.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.